The JWL Sports, where we review all the best sports clips from around the world. If this is your first time checking out a video, please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. We're watching a clip of Get Up talking about Justin Fields, and why isn't the Justin Fields trade market as robust as the Bears may want it to be? This is an interesting question because it seems like outside of the Bears' little bubble itself, Chicago bubble, Chicago Bears fans, a lot of people don't think Justin Fields is that great. But a lot of the Bears fans think Justin Fields is amazing. And a lot of them would rather have Caleb Williams, or they would rather have Justin Fields over Caleb Williams, which is pretty wild from my perspective. I still struggle. I've asked so many Chicago Bear fans to please explain it to me, and nothing they have said has remotely made sense to me or resonated to me. I mean, some sense, I guess, but just not enough for me to be like, okay, I can see that. It's always like, we're kind of reaching here, right? It's just, this is like being in a dysfunctional relationship and you're like, well, he's only mean to me because, I need to be a better person. He's only a jerk to me because, I need to be, I need to make sure that I had dinner ready for him, or he just had a long day at work. That's why he's so mean to me. It's like, we're kind of making excuses here. So I want to see what they have to say, and then we can break it down from there.
I think Adam mentions it. The two teams that we went into the combine thinking were the favorites, Atlanta and Pittsburgh, don't seem to have the level of interest that we anticipated that they might. So who does? He mentioned the Raiders. Now, the Raiders just hired Luke Getsy, who was Justin Fields' offensive coordinator in Chicago the last couple of years. There would be some continuity there. I guess you could argue that could be a good thing. Maybe it's a bad thing if they didn't necessarily connect. So the market starts to thin out a little bit, and you wonder, is someone going to make a Justin Fields trade and bring him in as their unquestioned starter, or do we need to expand this list to include places where he might not be that, where he might either be a backup or in a competition for at least the first year that he's there? So the Bears want to trade him. I believe they will trade him, assuming they're going to stay and pick Caleb Williams at number 1, which I think we all believe is the case. But it may not be the kind of return they were initially hoping for.
So you're my general manager here. The offices of Greenberg and Tannenbaum are now officially open. You're the general manager, as you were. If the market isn't what you expected it to be, does it behoove you to wait until some other market force comes into play, someone doesn't get who they want, someone gets injured, et cetera? Or does it behoove you to cut your losses and move now?
We got to move right now, because when Caleb Williams walks through the door, the last thing you want if you're Matt Eberflus and the Chicago Bears is, hey, Justin Fields looked better in 7-on-7 today, and who's going to get what rep? That's not fair to either quarterback. And Greeny, you're making a great point. I look at this next group of teams like Minnesota, assuming they lose Kirk Cousins, Denver, Raiders, Saints, even a team like Seattle. I would think they would have some interest at some point in Justin Fields. But economically, Green, this is really important. You look at a team like the Pittsburgh Steelers, they're saying, hey, we could go pay Kenny Pickett about $4.5 million for 2 years, or with Justin Fields assuming the 5th-year option, $28 million. So now money becomes part of this discussion.
Greeny, here's part of this conversation. When people were saying Justin Fields first or second round pick, it was like, what? How is that going to happen? Okay, number one, this draft has got really talented players at the quarterback position. So if your team's sitting there saying it's going to cost me a second round pick to go trade for Justin Fields, and I really get 1 year with him to figure out big payday or not, or take that second round pick and invest it into a quarterback to try to go up potentially, it's obvious you go to the rookie. So that. Number two, everyone knows Chicago's taking a quarterback, and it sounds like they're going to take Caleb Williams. So everybody knows that they're going to move off the player in some capacity, right? I think teams have to figure out two questions in relation to Justin Fields, because if Chicago's going to take Caleb, they have to figure out this. Number one, where does Justin Fields sit with his own doubt? I say this all the time. I don't care who you are. When you go through this type of failure and tumultuous start to your career, the doubt of, do I actually belong in the NFL, becomes very real. Now, maybe there's levels to it. Number two, this will be his third offense in 4 years. So for the team that is going to acquire Justin, you have to unequivocally believe doubt is not an issue for him, and that he's not only going to learn this offense third and 4 years, but then he has to go and play well in it in a very short span, and I have to make a decision whether I'm going to pay him or not.
Can I just
So this is the question, though. Well, I want to see what he's going to throw real fast.
Throw a team at you, for example. I've been on the Steelers bandwagon for the longest time, and I do not mean this to be disrespectful, but let's just analyze. I believe Kenny Pickett's ceiling is here.
Sure.
And Justin's ceiling is
What's it
way
gonna cost
up
you?
here. You tell so a second-round pick?
Its second-round pick is steep right now for a guy.
So, okay. That wasn't really that interesting because we've already been talking about that before. And this is the problem with the Steelers and not having an offensive head coach. Defensive head coaches think that they can win with any type of quarterback, and we know that that's not true. Offensive coaches can win with many quarterbacks, backup quarterbacks, but they're also very quickly to say, nope, we got to move on. And I just made a video literally just a second ago talking all about that. How the great offensive coaches like Andy Reid, Sean McVay, they're like, nope, we need a different quarterback. I need someone better than Goff. Give me Stafford. Nope, Alex Smith is a great quarterback. I need someone better. Go get me Mahomes. Like, they make those decisions that someone like a Tomlin or a defensive head coach does not do. And so that's the problem. So that's just like an organizational issue within the Steelers. But in terms of looking at Justin Fields as a whole, and I've been really beating this drum because I'm a firm believer in it, is the best thing for Justin Fields, and again, if you're looking at it from, depending on which perspective you're looking at it from, whether a team's perspective or like if you're Justin Fields himself in that camp and what's best for him individually. Justin Fields, I think, would be great as a backup to get like resituated, to get reestablished, right? Going to a team like Philly, backing up Jalen Hurts, who gets hurt, and Philly's a very high functioning organization. No ifs, ands, or buts. The only people that don't believe that are people that just hate the Eagles. But the Eagles are one of the most successful teams in the NFL. In the last 20 some years, they're second only to the Patriots with the most playoff wins, who were a dynasty. So they are a great top level team. So going with them would definitely be advantageous. Although with Jalen Hurts being banged up, you could be in the situation where it's like, hey, we're going to kind of go to war against each other. But with that said, originally I was thinking that a Justin Fields needed to kind of go into like a Baker Mayfield situation where he could just go to this team that doesn't really care about him, or hey, if we lose, it doesn't matter because we're going to try to get Caleb Williams anyway. And then he just kind of surprises people and succeeds. Justin Fields needs, to me, pausing this is perfect. Head down and just oh my God, he is drowning. He is absolutely drowning, and he needs to be rescued. And a poor team that's not good, that doesn't have good weapons, that's just failing as an organization as a whole, is not going to rescue him. Unless you get really lucky and they did hire some hotshot offensive coordinator that just came out of nowhere that is just amazing, and he's don't worry, I got you, right? That's not always the easiest thing or common thing ever. So Justin Fields needs to go to a great situation. He needed to somehow end up with the Sean McVay, right? Who's I'm desperate for a quarterback, and then just working with me for 2 minutes, I open up your eyes. That's what Sean McVay did for Baker Mayfield. And he showed the whole world, look, you can make magic with Baker. You can win games with Baker. And some people believe that Chicago has already shown that with Justin Fields. But, that's questionable. So I wouldn't just completely just say Justin Fields is a scrub, can never play, he's done. Because I don't trust the Chicago Bears to be able to do much of anything with any quarterback, quite honestly. Let alone a quarterback like Justin Fields, who was very, very raw, physically talented, that when you have such a hyper-athletic quarterback like a Justin Fields, they really need to be sculpted. They really need to be sculpted and contained and unleashed. And that is what Andy Reid did for Patrick Mahomes. No ifs, ands, or buts. It's what Brian Daboll did for Josh Allen. It's what a lot of these great coaches need to do to these hyper-athletic, strong quarterbacks like a Justin Fields. And they need an alpha. They need a guy who they know is in charge. Justin Fields needs to be a follower. He needs to just listen, look up at an Andy Reid and just say, I will do whatever you tell me to do. But I can guarantee you, it feels like with all the times that he's been with the Bears, he's in situations where he's like, man, I know more than this guy. He even said, they're making things messy. They're making things more complicated. I got to just listen to myself. He literally said that last season or the season before. I forget exactly when. So he needs to go to a place where he can just trust unconditionally. He needs that. He really, really does. And I just don't know exactly where that ends up being. I really, really don't. And this whole idea, though, that you only get 1 year with Justin Fields, and then you have to figure out, then you have to like say, okay, I'm going to pay him a boatload of money. That's not true. He's done nothing to owe that, to deserve that money. Okay? So he just doesn't magically get some $60 million a year contract. That's not how it works. So if he gets, let's say he plays for the Falcons, again, just using them as a placeholder team, and he plays like okay, good, plays better than Chicago than he did, and we're just like, all right, I think we kind of got something here. You don't got to pay him $60 million a year. He's done nothing to be owed that. And other teams aren't going to be like, all right, I'm going to pay you. Now, if he now balls out and plays amazing, he can make that argument. See, I told you I'm amazing. I told you I'm great. Chicago was just nothing. Well, then you can pay him. You can extend him. You can pay him a 3-4 year at, again, insert very high amounts of money, whatever it ends up being at the time. And then that's kind of like, you can then have to figure out, well, did they just have a really good year? Was this an outlier year? Or were we able to finally unlock him? And you know what? It's worth a gamble, because you're not signing him for a 10-year contract. You're not doing something outrageous. This isn't baseball. So if you do sign him for, say, like a 3 or 4, however, we can structure contracts so differently in terms of guaranteed money, but it just seems like unless he truly balls out, let's say he goes to the Falcons and absolutely balls out and is like the second seed, then he could be like, that's right, give me money. I want guaranteed. But even then it's like, bro, we made you. You didn't make us. Like, it's still not the easiest thing. It's still not this just, effortless, like, that's it. So I think this idea that he's just going to like get paid regardless, as long as he's just like playing football and is good enough to be a starter, that he's going to make that money, I don't believe that. And that's just bad business. It just is. It's just bad business. And so I don't know, he might get that from a bad team, from a badly run team like the Cleveland Browns. But I'm just, I'm not seeing where Justin Fields is in a situation where he's going to be able to command that. In recent NFL history, we have some very big examples of those contracts going terrible, okay? Deshaun Watson and Russell Wilson. The NFL does not forget money. We forget records. We forget injuries. We forget victories. We forget losses. They do not forget money. Money is the one thing you do not forget. So this idea that he's just going to get paid, I'm not seeing it. Again, the only situation that to me happens is if he balls out. And if he truly balls out, well, then it's like, well, see, maybe he really was great all this time. And we see greatness into him. And you know what? It's worth this 3-year contract, 4-year contract, whatever you can map out. And then that's the gamble you take if you are, say, like the Atlanta Falcons or the Pittsburgh Steelers. You say, okay, maybe this was a fluke year. And if it was, that sucks. And now we got to eat it. But then if he's really that bad, then you'll be able to draft another quarterback. I mean, seriously, like there's just no other options at that point. You got to pay someone something. So to me, that's what you do. That's how you look for Justin Fields to succeed. So I don't think it's really that big of a gamble to go out and get him, especially if you need a quarterback. And not to say that I would trade like a first-round pick for him either, because I wouldn't. But it all depends on where you think your team is at, and if you think Justin Fields is actually a good quarterback and just in a bad place. Because if you think he's in a bad place and that they can't succeed, well, then you should be betting your money that Caleb Williams is going to fail and that he'll be available, and you can go out and try to grab him then potentially. I mean, who really knows? But those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours. I read every single comment. So if you think what I'm saying is the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard, please let me know in the comments below. If you think what I'm saying is the most amazing thing, then definitely please let me know. Either way, let's get into some discussions. Let's get into some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of, and I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please do give this video a thumbs up. It's one of the best ways to support me. It really, really helps with the visibility, the algorithm, and I would greatly, greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much, and see you next time.